Next one. This is Perplexity. This is a tweet by Magnus Mueller saying, I just realized that Perplexity is built on BrowserUse open source library. And I think that what they're saying, okay, Perplexity users kept reporting that it was randomly searching for capital of France and answering Paris for unrelated prompts. This exact prompt, what is the capital of France, is hard-coded in BrowserUse. We use it as a sanity check in Verify LLM connection. So this is interesting. Could be disabled, but Perplexity forgot. So they're kind of leaking the debug information of BrowserUse.
Yeah, so this is an interesting tell. I feel like the BrowserUse people have just gotten a raw deal. They're very innovative. I've seen, what they put out. BrowserUse, for those that don't know, was the original browser using agent before OpenAI came out with Operator. And this is AI native. This is not using Selenium or using, what's the one, I'm forgetting the name, that people would Playwright. This is actually using both DOM and visual inspection. And the open source BrowserUse was better than OpenAI's Operator. But it got zero attention because OpenAI was OpenAI, and at that point they had the mind share that Anthropic does now, where they put out a press release and the world goes nuts. But BrowserUse had this thing for free and open source, and people didn't even know about it, and they were first. So that was their first raw deal. The second raw deal was then Manus. I feel like people don't even talk about Manus anymore, but there was a period of time where Manus was AGI. People thought, this is amazing. This is the most powerful agent. It can automate my life. It can, leverage and superpower, the models. And it was kind of like a harness or an agent. It did stuff. It didn't just think. And one of the main things that was powerful about it was its ability to navigate the web on your behalf, to not just do research, but to do things like book a flight or, do things that actually required interacting with UI elements on a web page that you couldn't get by scraping it. And they used BrowserUse because it was an open source library. So they're like, okay, I'll just take that and I'll use it. They, didn't kind of credit them. They didn't really have them share in the success. And it happened once again now with Perplexity Computer being this new amazing thing that people are going crazy about. And computer use is this whole other area now that is starting to accelerate. And there's different harnesses that are using, and there's something with Claude, and there's something with Codex. There was a Kua agent harness a while back. And so there's a lot of
OpenAI has a decent one too.
Yeah, the Codex. I mean, especially at least for Mac. It's not yet on Windows, but on Mac, I used it to automate going across 4 different browser profiles and searching through emails and downloading attachments and processing the data and updating a spreadsheet with that. It is really powerful and fast. So the fact that Perplexity is not doing that with BrowserUse is man, it's the third time that they get a raw deal, and all they want is some credit. They just want people to mention them,
Yeah, I'm a big Perplexity fan. I'm a heavy Perplexity user. I use Perplexity Computer Use. It burns through a lot of credits when you're using Perplexity Computer Use, and Perplexity credits are expensive for what you get. Yeah. Now, it is nice to be able to go to a site and say, here's a site that has no API, click through this interface, it has a bunch of ephemeral things that aren't in the DOM in a way that's predictable, but go ahead and click through it. And so it's frustrating that they wouldn't give BrowserUse the credit. I think that in this world where we're all using each other's stuff, that seems like a reasonable courtesy, and I think just, brand on top of it.
In addition to, trying to maintain clout for their brand, is maybe trying to protect some kind of a moat around the technology. And we saw
Or the
this, and I talked
perception
about
of
it
a moat.
before with Cursor and the Kimi. Well, when Kimi K 2.6 came out, they're like, oh man, the new Cursor model is going to be fire, because
Yeah.
they use the Kimi model under the hood. And yeah, it's for most people, the credit and the branding thing is like something that they might want to know what powers it. But for tinkers and hackers, I think it's good to know that there's alternatives. That these giant companies that have these enormous budgets aren't necessarily building their own things from scratch. They're leveraging open source libraries that we could also leverage. So,
and then with 1,000% markup or more.
Oh yeah, at least, if not more.
And that was the frustrating thing, right? Is for computer use, as an example, in my use case, it's something I needed to get done once, and so it wasn't worth digging into. Okay, what are all the different ways I could do this, and how's the way to do it the most economically? I had to do it once, it burned through a couple dollars, and it was a reasonable decision. But if I was to put this in some automation pipeline, sure, you could just multiply the amount you're paying Perplexity, but it wouldn't even occur to you. It's like, okay, let's figure out another way to do this. And that's why we're trying to do this as a show, to show you, okay, as you scale up in your AI operations, you want to think through, am I using the most economical way to do this, right?
Yeah.
Do I always need to be using Claude Opus, for example, right? Is there an underlying tool that's powering all this stuff that I can do for a 1,000th of the cost?
Yeah.
Actually, that's probably a good segue